two things today, Harvest 2022 and Vintage 2015. And actually it's the same story. It's not two different vintages, it's two times the same story, two times the same climatic conditions, droughts and heat wave. Let's speak about 2022. In 2022 we started with a mild winter, no real frosts, then a very dry spring. And drought in the spring means two things. One, no rain, no disease, no pressure, no need to treat the vines, and at the end, a very clean grapes, no disease at all. That is always the first element for quality in champagne. That is the positive thing. But the negative one is that if there is no rain in the spring, there is no mineralization of nitrogen in the soil, therefore lack of nitrogen in the grapes and in the juices, and difficulties to ferment. So that has been a very challenging thing in 2022, that lack of nitrogen that has asked us to really think about how to ferment, how to manage the fermentations. But in fact, after 2015, after 2006, after 2003, 1999, we have learned about how to manage, how to ferment grapes with light levels of nitrogen. Then heat wave in the summer, very high levels of temperature that has shortened the time between the blossoming and the harvest. In 2022, we planned initially to start the harvest mid-August, 15th of August, that is the earliest ever. But finally, when tasting the grapes, we found that we had a sort of desynchronization between the different elements of maturation: sugar, acidity, tannins, taste, and even if sugar content were quite high mid-August, the taste was missing. You know, we were lacking of expression of the fruitiness. We decided to postpone a little bit the start of the harvest in order to go for high level of sugar. We accepted to have lower level of acidity just to get the fruitiness and the taste. And finally, we started around the 20th of August. That is still very early. Just for you to realize, from 1822 up to 2003, we never started the harvest in August. Never started the harvest in August in Champagne. Since 2003 up to 2022, we did it 8 times. So it's a real element about climate change, about global warming. But we have been able to adapt to it. The harvest has been quite serene because the grapes were ripe. They were clean, no rain, so easy for the pickers to harvest the grapes. The two things were, one, the lack of nitrogen. Second, the fact that as in the spring we have had a lack of water, the berries were very small. Small berries mean a high ratio of skin over juice, therefore a lot of phenolic structure extracted in the juices because also of the worms and the fragility of the skins. So we had juices that were fragile and very sensitive to oxidation. Some in Champagne decided to overprotect the juices to avoid the oxidation, the brownishment of the juices. At Moët Chandon, we decided not to change anything, to let the oxidations happen in order to get rid of the easily oxidable elements and to work with juices that were stable. At the end, we've been happy with the 3 varieties. I would say that since the beginning, Meunier have been tasting very well. Juicy, fleshy, pulpy, fresh apple-like, and it's classic in such warm years. Meunier always performed very well. At the beginning, Chardonnay were a little bit behind. You know, we were expecting Chardonnay with a lot of exotic character, a lot of fruit. They were a little bit closed, and still today they are a little bit, but it's not a bad news because they have the freshness, they have the pulp on the palate, and I suppose that Chardonnay will develop very well in the months to come. And by the way, I haven't decided yet. I have decided to go for a vintage from 2022, but I haven't decided the blend yet because I feel the need to wait a little bit longer for the wines to really open up and to be sure that what I'm going to select for the blend have the right potential. And then Pinot Noir has been the question mark. At the beginning, I found the Pinot Noir a little bit vegetal, you know, a little bit green in aromas. And in fact, the Pinot Noir have become better and better weeks after weeks months after months, and today they look like to be the star of the year in terms of quality of the structure, quality of the aromas, and I might work on a more Pinot Noir driven blends for the vintage. And actually, so far the blends of Moët Chandon we've produced are more black skin grains dominant, also in order to keep more Chardonnay in reserve. And in fact, if we go back to 2015, if you want to remember the climate of 2015, it is the same story. It is the same story as 2022. Same kind of drought in the spring, so same kind of clean grapes, lack of nitrogen, and same kind of heat wave in the summer. Nevertheless, the season started a little bit later, so we didn't start the harvest in August in 2015, but around the 10th of September, still quite early for Champagne standards. And as in 2022, it has produced super grapes and super good wines from the three varieties, and again with Pinot Noir performing a little bit better than the others, or at least personal decision to work a little bit more the Pinot Noir in that blend. So it's 44% dominant Pinot Noir dominant blend, complemented with 38% of Chardonnay and 20 plus Meunier to add the juiciness and make the link between the Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. I think that if we think about the years before 2015 being for us the year of the sort of awakeness, you know, it's the COP in Paris with the accord on the climate change, and so it's the year where the world accepted that climate was changing and we had to set goals for it. And it has been a sort of a consciousness also for us in Champagne. It's really in 2015 that I started to get convinced that climate was changing, that there was a global warming and it was affecting our grapes, and we had to be more concerned about our picking dates, about our winemaking in order to adapt to the new profile of the grapes. But in fact, before, in 2009, in 2006, in 2003, in 1999, in 1989, we had weak signals about that change. And I think that unconsciously we have started to adapt. And if I taste again, you know, back vintages influenced by global warming, 99, 2003, I think that at that time we're not ready. And the style we have produced in such vintages are interesting, but they lack a little bit of fruitiness. Fruitiness for me being the main element of the Moët Chandon style. And I think with 2015, we have been able to work such new profile of grapes in a classic Champagne Moët Chandon style, preserving the lightness of the aromas, preserving a sort of floral character, citrusy, white flesh fruits, and preserving a sort of lightness, elegance, and freshness on the plate. When you think of heat wave, you think of high levels of maturity, you think of richness, you can think of a sort of weight. In the case of 2015, there is a sort of enveloping character, humbleness, amplitude, a spheric character, but at the heart, the wine remains light and airy, not heavy in any case. And what really strikes me is the finish, because the finish of 2006 is fresh, but that freshness is not so much based on acidity. It's more a combination of acidity and bitterness. And I think that one new element in the profile of our grapes and the profile of wines is that idea of the phenolics, the bitterness. That we're not speaking about that for long in Champagne, but with global warming, climate change, maturity of the grapes, we will have more and more tannic structure in our wines, and we have to think about how to extract that, age, work, fine the tannic structure in order to keep what we can call noble bitterness, noble tannins in our wines, to complement with the acidity to preserve the freshness we have. So globally, 2022, 2015, same kind of years, drought, heat wave, grapes that are very clean, high maturity, a little bit lower in acidity, but honestly it doesn't matter that much because combined with the bitterness, there is a sense of freshness. And I think that after something like 20 years, 30 years of climate change and global warming influence, in 2015 we've been able to maintain or come back to classic elements of champagne, a fresh fruitiness, an enveloping structure, and a light persistency. Cheers.